All right, guys and gals in the Patreon, we have Mr. Jack McClellan with us today, and he is I guess we could say, a filmmaker down in Florida. You have made the uh, documentary film Bridges about Bill and Carolyn. Um, oh, I'm blanking on the last name. It's season
Bridges.
one. Bridges, yeah,
Yeah.
duh. Oh my goodness. I'm a software engineer and I have been up late, dude. I'm sorry. But they're from the season one of Finding Bigfoot, the Skunk Ape episode. So it's
Yeah.
very cool, very cool. But anything else you would want the listeners to know about yourself besides that?
Um, I'm currently attending Florida State University, up here in North Florida. I'm seeking a degree in digital media production design. Along while doing that, I work at an IT department at Florida State Hospital up here.
Okay.
And in my spare so any spare time I get, I'm trying to link up with one of my best friends, Ethan. We work together on all of our film projects. He didn't work with me on the Bigfoot one. That was like a class project that was due, and but just we have a lot of fun, and we try to have a good time with our projects. And the Bridges one, which you talked about, it was kind of a last minute thing, but it was a fun, and I'm happy I did it too, because everyone else in my class, they all did short documentaries about, just general things about how crappy the world is right now, and how we need to make a statement. And to which mine was, why don't we talk about something that most people our age don't seem to, or at least people our age and, like, I guess the university scene don't really talk about. So we made that, and
Totally.
we just have a lot of fun doing it.
That's
I
awesome.
I'm intrigued by stuff, like cryptozoology and all that kind of stuff. It's intriguing to me. It's very fun. I know a lot of different people have different opinions on it, but I think
Hmm.
it's incredibly mysterious, and that's what makes it so
Yeah,
fun to me. So
I
that's just a
agree.
little bit about me, I guess.
Sweet, sweet. So, being from Florida, so when you hear the term skunk ape, what is it that people should know? What is
Well,
this guy?
I guess the first thing, there is a difference, because most people think when they hear skunk ape, they automatically think Sasquatch.
Hmm.
But it's been widely proven, or discussed by a lot of different people, that there are differences. There's different kinds of these animals, or these beings, these entities, and the skunk ape is like the variant of the species. I'm not a scientist, so I don't know, like, the terminology too well, but
Okay.
my actually first time I learned of skunk ape was from the episode of Finding Bigfoot,
Totally.
from Animal Planet. And because up to that point, anytime anyone around here, whenever they would talk about it, they'd mention it as Sasquatch or Bigfoot, like that. And then they hear
Mhm.
skunk ape, and then the more it kind of ties into the swampy regions in these areas, and how it ties in, and it kind of fits with that aesthetic more in the name, and the general creature. Like, I've heard some people say that it has an odor to it, stuff like that. And
Mm.
it just kind of came along, and it helps, in my opinion, kind of individualize the creature, because it's really easy just to say Bigfoot or Sasquatch. And when you say skunk ape, that really puts it, I guess, in a league of its own. And
Oh, yeah.
it's just really, really fun. And plus, it's kind of funny to say skunk ape. So
That's awesome. So, would you say down in Florida, have you found that, if there's a Bigfoot issue going on anywhere in Florida, it's just like, "Oh, skunk ape," or there's some people that are like, it's gotta be in these certain swamps that you're."
I wouldn't say so. I mean,
Yeah.
I live in Gadsden County, which is where the original reports that the Bridges family, that's where they live to. Actually, I live in Chattahoochee, which is all of 10 minutes from where they live. So,
Okay.
I'm right down the road. And while we per se don't have, like, truly swampy regions, we do have, like, marshes. We've got, really wet regions, lots of lakes, ponds, stuff like that. Hell, my family, which lives about 15 minutes down the road, we live on a little lake. So it's I could definitely see how, one would say, swampy skunk apes, North Florida. What personally as a Floridian, when I think of swamps, I think more South Florida, like where the Everglades
Okay.
are and everything.
Sure.
But the region definitely is like appropriate. Like it's definitely something I could see a skunk ape existing within, because there is plenty of, nasty, or well, I guess it depends on your idea of nasty, but
Right.
kind of that, just dreary, wet, and sometimes it can get a little dry around here, but there's never a source of water is never too far. And it's not just water, but just in general, kind of that general, land, the mat, I don't know, just how the environment would suit the environment well for the skunk apes around here. And the trees, the forests around here can get so incredibly thick, so twisty and twirly, you don't even know where you're going sometimes. So it is a great hiding area spot for
Oh
anything. I
yeah,
mean,
totally.
hell, we have bears around here. That's and all the local law enforcement will tell you, look out for bears, look out for anything. And you rarely see bears, but they're here. That's just, and you would think something that big, because bears around here, like black bears around here, even though they're not as big and as dangerous as something like a grizzly bear or anything like that, they still get pretty big, and you can still run into them. But look at how well hidden they stay.
That's true.
Same
Yeah, that's
for
a good point.
cougars.
Good
There
point.
are cougars in these areas. They're very rare,
Mm.
but a lot of that can be attributed to how well they are adapted to hiding. And that's a big thing, is the fact that they hide. And I think that's something that a lot of people in this area will often use as like a tool against trying to prove that a skunk ape or something like a Sasquatch doesn't exist. Well, we don't see it. We can't find it. Okay.
Mm.
Well, it's not like a deer. It's not going to come out to you put down some corn on the ground. It's not like it's going to come
Usually
walking out.
not. Yeah.
Yeah,
Usually
yeah.
not.
It's
Yeah.
and it's smarter. They're intelligent creatures. Deer,
Mm-hmm.
they're herd animals. Their only goal is to survive. So there are a lot of people around here that will, balk at the idea of, of an animal like that existing. I know, like, I know people personally who I am like constituents with or friends with, associates, and I still am. I mean, nothing will change that unless they do something horrible to me. But like, they've watched my my Bridges thing, and they're like, they'll joke about it, like, oh, have you seen Bigfoot yet? And I'm like, no, it's not that simple. It's not like,
Right. Right.
now that I've
Exactly.
made this, I have like, visors on that allow me to see him through the woods. It's not like that. So, but I do think that the location, it's still appropriate, I guess, for people to say Skunk Ape. And I think a lot of it, when people do say it, was definitely popularized by Finding Bigfoot,
Oh
because that
yeah.
was
100%.
definitely the first and most most popular. I get, yeah, that it was the most popular way to say it. Hearing Bobo say Skunk Ape 20 times in the episode really drove it home. So
Besides, so not getting to the documentary yet, but do you have any um friends or relatives or anyone that have had dealings with skunk apes or any?
well, um my when I lived at home, because I live at my job now while I go to school.
Okay.
When I lived at home, which was like I said, just 15 minutes on the road, my aunt and uncle on my mother's side, they actually moved here right next door to us from Louisiana. They lived in
Mm.
Baton Rouge, and they moved here. And they actually became very good friends with the Bridges family.
Ah.
And that's because Miss Carolyn and Mr. Bill we would go out to their house for fun little sporting events. Like we'd watch football. It'd be fun, all friends and family, stuff like that. And my aunt and uncle, they became really close with them too. And it's hard to not like the Bridges. They're very kind people. And
Mm.
uh my aunt and uncle, they had never really been, I guess, to my knowledge, huge believers. I remember when first time they watched Finding Bigfoot, they thought it was kind of funny. They were like,
Hmm.
and then when they actually met Mr. Bill and Mr. Carolyn, they were like, oh my God, it's like, meeting movie stars. How was it? But when they were building their home or having it constructed next to us, they lived out of a fifth wheel for about
Okay.
a year. And my aunt, especially, they're both very down to earth people, my aunt and uncle. They they would routinely mention, like, they'd hear really odd noises. They said that things would be moved, but
Oh,
like
wow.
not like in a like, random way. It was more like a there was a method to it. There was a
Mm-hmm.
pattern almost. And they would say, they'd see they have horses. They said the horses would just go AWOL. They'd go crazy
Wow.
at night. They'd started putting up motion sensors in their yard. And their yard, the way they have it set up, it's like completely fenced in on all directions.
Okay.
And some parts of it are very high fences. So like it would be difficult for a deer to even jump over it. And they would
Mm.
say that their motion light sensors would just go off, and that the animals would go just crazy at night and
Oh,
stuff like
wow.
that. And um while it's never, the source was never truly discovered, because a lot of it happened at night. And my and
Mm-hmm.
uncle, they both work in the medical field, so they're routinely, when if they're not at work, they're at home usually sleeping. So they're not going to stay up all night to try to investigate it. But they both have reported several times over that they would just hear these just most obtuse sounds and things
Mm.
that you can't really, I guess, logically describe. So
Okay.
they
Wow.
while they never directly said, yeah, this is definitely a Sasquatch or a skunk ape, they don't disprove, they don't throw that idea down either. They're like, who knows, it's definitely different. And
Man.
there's just weird things happen like that around here. It's thick of North Florida woods. We're out in the middle of the boonies, so
That's
there's a
crazy.
lot.
It's the Panhandle area
Yeah.
ish.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we're right slap dab in the middle of the Panhandle, I'd say.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you grew up you're pretty close to where the bridges are, and
Yeah.
so you just happen to know them, and that's how you were able to do the documentary, or is there a story about how you got that set up?
Well, of course, I guess it all starts with the assignment being that it's a digital
Mm.
media program I'm in. We basically cover every facet of in some form creative filmmaking, whether it's a narrative project, documentary, stuff like that. And they all count. Instead of doing like finals, we do these projects, and they're presented to our fellow peers around the school, to the other programs, stuff like that. And all of my fellow students and my teacher too, they're very much, and I understand, it's how some people like to report and I guess spread information. They all wanted to do things that were like relevant. So like
Right.
stuff about COVID, stuff about the current, presidential election, stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. And I understand there's a platform for that, but I was like, I'm going to take this platform because I like to entertain. I like
Yeah.
to, highlight things that are different. And I couldn't really think. And one day it just hit me. Something happened. I think it was Mr. Bill actually works, or well, when he's on campus at my job, he works in the same building as me. And
Oh, wow.
I did some work on one of his laptops for him. And I remember it wasn't too long after that I said, I wonder if they're still having, I guess, occurrences or interactions out there,
Right.
because the last time I had been out to their home was many years ago. And when we went there, it was about 2 years after their finding Bigfoot thing. And I distinctly remember when we went out there, there was like 3 crews out there of like investigators, and they had these giant RVs, and they were down in the woods.
Really?
Yeah, and
No way.
I remember thinking,
Huh.
man, that's crazy. So I called her up and I asked her if they were still down there, and she said not at the moment. A lot of it because of health concerns and stuff like that. They're trying
Mm.
to just
Yeah.
minimalize who comes and goes, because the bridges, they're very nice. They like to invite you in. They like to take care of you while you're there. And I completely understood. And I asked her, I said, well, if you feel up to it, I'm doing a short documentary, and I'd love to feature you and Mr. Bill, because it's, you guys have a story to tell. Even though you have told it, I wanted to tell. I And this is no dig against Finding Bigfoot. I do like the show.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt like the episode, specifically the Skunk Ape one, it was very surface value. Like it
Mm.
was like, yeah, there's a big Bigfoot skunk ape down out here. He opened my door, and like, and they kind of they just went with that, and then
Right. Right.
kind of ran with that. I wanted to, I don't know, touch a bit more on how it made Miss Carolyn and Mr. Bill feel too, and how, and like the more of their personal thoughts about it. So I spent a couple weekends out there. When I wasn't at work, I was out there filming with them, and that's pretty much how it happened. Because what I wanted to do is I have enough footage to easily make it north of 35 to 40 minutes long, easily. But
Yeah.
the project, they wanted us to restrict it to preferably under 5 minutes, because we had
Oh
like
wow.
30 of them to watch. And if you got 30 projects at 5 minutes long, we're gonna be there all day. And so
Mm.
I trimmed it down, I think, to like 6.5. I forget. I wasn't happy with how much I trimmed it down. And I remember actually Miss Carolyn was very doubtful that I could actually create a decent product. And I was doubtful too. I was like, man, because you got a lot to say. So I
Mm-hmm.
basically went through and I grabbed all of the most important points that I felt were, in a short, small dose would mean the most. And I put those in. And of course I did the quick little opening of the door thing
Yep.
with, I made
Yep.
it. The reason I did that was because I wanted to create some kind of image for the audience, because up to that point all I had for the audience to really visualize was like a single picture
Okay.
that Miss Carolyn had, that a former researcher or a friend of hers researcher had given her, of like their interpretation of the skunk ape. And it was cool. I really liked it, but I was like, that's just a picture, and I feel like the kids at FSU, given how they perceive everything, they probably find it a little bit on the silly side. So I was like, well, I'll just retrofit this monster head I had made, and made it more. I tried to make it more like primate-ish.
It's
It
cool,
originally.
man.
Oh,
It
thank
comes
you.
across really cool. Yeah. It's
It's
almost like
literally.
super creepy. I'm like, oh man.
Yeah, it's a hand puppet that I made.
Oh,
It's
okay.
it's like two separate pieces, and it's got like originally it looked nothing nothing
Wow.
like a Bigfoot. It was this horrible Lovecraftian creature I'd made for a little short test video.
Okay.
And so I took it back and I changed some things, and we went and shot it one evening on the porch with the bridges. And I remember I told him, I said, I know it looks silly right now,
Mm-hmm.
but in it, because all you see is like me holding my arm out as far as I can with this wacky looking puppet. And I was like,
Oh,
just
that's
trust me on
funny.
this. And I went back and did it. But another reason I did it was because in the original Finding Bigfoot thing, the only recreation they have of the skunk ape coming up to their door is a really poorly done CGI Bigfoot, or
Yeah.
their model like
Yeah.
30 feet
Yep.
behind the house just going "Rah," like that. And
That's
I was like,
part
that
of the
just ain't gonna cut
fun
it. So
is the
yeah,
CGI
it is fun.
models. It's like, okay, I get it, but it's like,
And also,
yeah.
I'm still touching up my CG skills, and I was not prepared. I'm like, nah, I can't do this with a computer. I got to do this all in person. And the glove, the hand too, which in retrospective now, every time I rewatch it, I'm like, man, I should have put something on the hands to make them thicker, because like in the video they're very long and lanky looking. It makes me think of like Nosferatu or something. But
Yeah, I mean, it works though. Like
yeah,
it's creepy as all get out.
yeah, it did
Yeah.
drive that home. So
Yeah.
and there's like I said, there's more footage, specifically the interview, and Miss Carolyn had a ton to say, and I'm really appreciative that she shared with what she did with me. Some of it she didn't want out there, and I totally understood
Hmm.
why.
Yeah.
But the stuff that she did make me more available to share, I still want to put it out. What I would like to do, and I've been talking with Connor Flynn,
Hmm. Yep.
is he knows lots of people locally that have had experiences, or what they feel like are interactions with many different beings of their whatever they believe it is, and possibly doing like a big compilation or something, because I had a lot of fun doing it. It was
Yeah.
I prefer narrative projects, creative ones like that, but with this one I was able to have a bit more fun with it, because I didn't have to write the story. The story was basically
Hmm.
their what they experienced. So it was more like me trying to just respect what happened, and share it, because I don't kind of, well, not serious as in like too serious to enjoy, but you know for like the bridges, this is scary stuff. This
Oh
is
yeah,
stuff
it's real life.
keeps them up at night, and I
Yeah.
wanted people to yeah, I want them to understand that this isn't just some fun documentary, that you catch on Animal Planet. Like for them, it's real. Like I actually spoke to Miss Carolyn a couple weeks ago, and she said that they still routinely have like horrible sounds. In fact, they said that
No way.
there was this like just horrible crashing sound they heard not too long ago. Yeah, they one thing, I only showed a little clip of it in the documentary. There's a part that I actually got footage of, and it was primarily of Mr. Bill. They not long after Michael came through, they Hurricane Michael, when it came through here a couple years ago, they found it looks like a den, I guess, that had been made. They actually have they have pictures of it. I have pictures somewhere. I need to dig it up and share it, but and I could do like a before and after. But basically, it was like a bunch of fallen tree limbs, and some of them were very big, like very very big, like heavy. Requires machinery to move.
Yeah.
Had been like propped up against a tree,
Way.
and the bottom where the dirt is, sticks had been put in place like a floor to like keep you elevated off of the nasty ground, because it's really muddy in that area. And it was really creepy. And through the course of Florida being Florida, we've had some pretty nasty, sometimes our thunderstorms are like miniature hurricanes through here. And through the course of nature having its way, it's kind of deteriorated. And I have a little bit of a clip of Bill actually pointing it out at the end of my documentary, but I didn't have enough time. I wanted to have that whole other thing to talk about that, but it is what it is, and I'm still happy. I'm really happy with how it came out. Everyone at FSU calls me the Bigfoot guy, and
which is an awesome compliment, I think. Like,
I'm like, hey,
that's pretty cool, man.
Even in like every project I do, they all ask me, well, is Bigfoot gonna be in this one? I'm like, not this one, but like I did a short horror film as my narrative project, and it took place in the woods, and the first thing people said, oh, it's in the woods, better have Bigfoot.
He's coming. Like, he's coming.
Yeah, they kept adding. Like at one point someone said, if Bigfoot, they were like, if Bigfoot doesn't come in and kiss the guy, I'm gonna be upset. And I was like, no, goodness. Don't worry, that doesn't happen. So
I would encourage you. I mean, so definitely the finished product is awesome. You can definitely feel that there's more to it, that you had to cut stuff out. And I would encourage you, like, I know it's hard to edit stuff. It takes a lot of time, but if you ever get the time, man, to put that together and put it out, I know there's tons of people that would love to watch it, and like that would really appreciate it in the Bigfoot community. So I'm gonna give you the encouragement, like if you ever get the time. Totally.
I do want to. And one thing I'd like to do with it is Miss Carolyn, her personal belief is that there's a bit more happening, and she even mentions it at the end, that there's a bit more happening than what meets the eye. And I would love to incorporate that, because I like, since I am more of a narrative guy, I would love to make like recreations of what they've discussed with me. Dramatic recreations. They're fun, because you can still have fun with that. And any reason to get me back out there too, because they live on just such a gorgeous property. I love it out there. Their home is beautiful. The property is beautiful. And even like, and I love it, even during the day when you're out there, even though it's so beautiful and it's just beyond gorgeous, you still feel kind of odd at times, you're
really,
like,
you still feel a little weird. Yeah,
actually, when like when we were filming some of Miss Carolyn's interviews, I would just get violent amounts of feedback on my mic, and like my mic was like far away from like the receiver. Like it was crazy, and it would just happen sporadically. And then like at some points you would just hear noises. And Miss Carolyn, she's so used to it by this point. She was like, oh, there it is. And I'm like, I'm happy you're okay with this, because if it were just me here, like, and at one point she was like, well, if you ever she's like, we're out of town sometimes, if you ever want to come and dog sit for us, because they have a really nice dog. I was like, I don't know if I'd
I don't know.
I like the woods, don't get me wrong, I've been living in the woods my whole life, but never this active.
Although you and Connor could hang out there, and that could be pretty wild, dude.
Dude, Connor is a trip. I love Connor. He's
a good dude.
He pulled clutch real hard for us about 3 or 4 weeks ago. We filmed some scenes. Okay, so to preface, ever since I did the documentary, It
Mm-hmm.
seems like no matter what I do, I cannot escape Sasquatch
It's the
because
curse. It's the curse.
what happened was there's this little film company I've been following for many years, and they distribute movies, a lot of movies like from Japan and all around the
Okay.
world. I really enjoy them. And they put out like this, it was like a request on their Facebook page saying, "Hey, we're shooting a movie, or we're finishing up shooting this movie that we started some odd years ago, and we need some help. We need to pad out the run length by like 5 minutes. Would anyone be
Mm.
willing to shoot some scenes for us?" And so I piped in. I said, "Sure, yeah." And they asked for my portfolio. I sent them my stuff. They're like, "Okay, cool." And they asked me, they were like, "Do you have access to like any military props or attire?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, sure, plenty." Because all my friends around here, we got, there's so much stuff around here that's like, hunting gear, military, all that kind of stuff, camo. So
Mm.
they send us a script and a link to this little film called Zillafoot.
Oh,
That
jeez.
is,
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
Connor told me about this. Yeah.
yeah. And so we were like, well, what do we shoot? And the guy from the film company was like, I want some like boardroom-esque military, tactic scenes, like they're gonna decide what they're gonna do, and very much in like the vein of old classic Godzilla films. And
Yeah. 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 Yep.
so I was like, well, let's have a little fun with it. This is in fact Zillafoot. It's like a giant Godzilla-sized Bigfoot, because the movie's pretty bad. Like, I watched the rough cut and I was like, oof. But
Yeah.
we still had fun with it, and so we decided we'd bring Connor in to like act as like this cryptid specialist,
Oh,
and
that's so good, man.
he fit it. Oh
Yeah.
my god, he was perfect. And he
Wow.
has like this little bit of physical comedy, and he just did, and he even brought his replica footprint of the Patterson
Oh, yeah. 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 Right. Yep.
Sasquatch. Yeah, he
Yep.
brought it
Yep.
in, and there's like this great moment where he's talking to this military official. He's like, sir, I forget his line exactly. He's like, "I'm the cryptid research officer," and he salutes, and the military official, he's like, "The who? Like, what are you talking about?" He's like, "Cryptozoology," and he's like, "Think Bigfoot," and he holds up the the footprint, and it's just perfect physical comedy. And then there's more
Oh,
to it than
man.
that, and he did a
That's
really good
awesome.
job, and the scenes look great too. He did a really good job at conveying, and he used like his real world knowledge too of things he's done, which half his lines I was like, just talk, dude.
Just go
And
for it. Yeah, totally.
he did a
Totally.
good job.
Oh, man. Jack, this has been super fun. Thank you for hanging out with me for a bit and talking about
Yeah.
Skunk Ape and your documentary and everything like that. Um, I mean, more power to you. I'll be definitely keeping an eye on you in the future with your Instagram and seeing what other things you come out with. And
Yeah,
um,
thank you.
yeah, but thanks again for hanging out, man.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. I know that Connor's been bugging me, like he's like, when you doing the podcast? And I told him, we had to reschedule the one, in which I totally
Right.
understood why he had to. I
Oh,
had a
yeah.
similar emergency earlier in the week with my job,
Yeah.
and I was like, it's gonna kill me.
Thank you. Yeah. No, it's almost happened again tonight. I'm like, I'm not going to let it happen, but
You have to say no
it's the
sometimes.
9 to 5. It's the 9 to 5, right? But
No, yeah.
yeah, man, more power to you. And besides your so remind me, do you have an actual, is it primarily your Instagram, or do you have any other places that you put stuff up right now?
Well, we're gonna be linking more stuff as we upload it to. We have a website.
Okay.
It's called alteredcortexdesign.com.
Okay.
That's all one word. Altered Cortex Design. It's our little studio, I guess, if you want to
Okay.
call it that.
Cool.
Right now, I'm still learning how to build these websites. I'm not very good
Mm-hmm.
at that part. So it's kind of bare bones, but it gets the point across, and it has links to a short horror film I did, and then the Bridges short, and
Awesome.
we'll be putting more stuff up on there in the future. We're have a lot of big stuff we're working on. You just gotta find some time to get away from work and everything to finish it.
Fantastic. Awesome. That's good news. That's good news.
Yeah, man.
All
And
right. Thanks again, Jack, for coming on.
thank you for having me, man. I had fun.